Namaste students, Khushra Betia, I JV and Dr. Y. Chandrakala, Assistant Professor Jyoti Vidyapeeth, Women's University, Jaipur. In today's session, we are going to discuss about the thallus organization in Anthropsida. Anthropsida, these are the having a habitat which is distributed in the worldwide growth, which normally grows in a shady and moist area. So normally in general you can find these plants in the shady place or a moist place having a, temperate or a tropical regions of um, in the globe. About 200 species are found in India in Himalayan regions in the thallus of this plant body is gametophytes and consists of a small dark green or a prostate thallus. It is a rosette-like or a lobe of which having a margin and is divided into a small lobe-like segments. So having a dichotomous systems are present here. The surface of the thallus of is smoothly or a velvety form. Okay, having a numerous thread-like rhizoids are present on the velvet surface. Okay, so that is the vegetative morphology when we talk about, and the mature thallus having a sporangium which spills out the spores, having sporophytes. Okay, so when we say the internal structure of the thallus, there is no internal differentiation occurs. The parenchyma cells are present here, so each contains the cell layers or a lens shape cells having a chlorophyll or having chloroplast or a green structures having these have a deep containing 2 to 8 chloroplast, and each chloroplast contain a single pyrenoids and which having the surface which is on the two surface, that is the upper and the lower epidermis. So the lower epidermis contain a mucilaginous cavity that opens up in the pores called the slime pores, and uh, it is the cavity having a blue-green algae which resides on that, having a symbiotic association with this. Okay, and the reproduction normally take place through the sexual reproduction or okay. So the vegetative reproduction is only when the death of the old plants occurs, or the vegetative reproductions take place with the dead part and giving rise a new young part of the into a new thallus. The tuber formation take place in some thallus, forming a tuber-like structures in which the rich in stored form of the fat and proteins take place, and this tuber germinate later on in the marginal lobes, and they can survive long period with the in a drought condition also. These tuber detach themselves and form the new plants also. And sometimes it is the vegetative reproduction also take place through the gamma formations, where the gamma are also produced in a short stalks on the upper surface of the thallus. Okay, so these are also act as a vegetative reproductive bodies, forming a persistent species, or here forming a persistent apex. Okay, during the favorable conditions. So forming a antheridial or an archegonium in the sexual reproduction part, when the antheridia is developed on the cavity called the antheridial chambers, and which is present on the dorsal surface, or 1 to 25 antheridia you can find in may develop at each of the antheridial chamber. So the mature antheridium consists of a ovoid bodies with a stalk or having a mass of the spermatogonious cells and forming a jackets or the sterile of the cells. Okay, so these when we see the recession formation, and these mature forming a roof of the antheridial chamber, which ruptures themselves to forming in the apical part, and due to the absorption of the water, and they rupture themselves to the apical apertures. Okay, so which helps in the dispersal of the spores, forming a new species. Okay, so that the cell may project slightly or forming a general surface, forming a thallus. Okay, so the fertilization may take place through water, where the water is essential for the fertilizations of the cell, where the mature archegonium or the ventral cell canals or the neck canals disintegrate and form a mucilaginous mass. So it's the absorption of water or the swell up or become out, forming the archegonial necks. So which pushes or the covers the cells apart. Okay. So here you can see the mucilaginous mass of the cells forming a continuous or a forming a mucilaginous around the cells and which open up and which help in the egg to form pass down. Okay, so here the mucilaginous mass consists of a chemical substances. So many anthrozoids can caught in the mucilaginous entry and that forms on the neck, and because of the such chemotactic response on the upper egg and the fertilization is affected. Okay, so here you can see the prior to the fertilization also the egg enlarges and fills the cavity of the ventral. So the fusion of both male and female nuclei results in the formation of a diploid zygote or a oospore. So here fertilization end up with that of the gametophytic phases. So the sporophytic of the anthroceras having a certain unique features. That means the sporangium is born on the gametophytes, but the mature sporangium does not totally depend on this gametophyte. Okay, so here the mature sporophyte consists of the bulbous like or the foot having a small slender erect cylindrical structures called the capsule. Okay, so these capsules vary within length and formation of the different species. Okay, so having a sporangium appears like a blister or a horn. Okay, that's why the species we call it as a horn worth. Okay, which have a foot, seta, and a capsule. Okay, when we see the sporophytic form, the foot has the basal part. That means the sporophyte, which is a round bulbous like structures having a deep embedded in the tissue of the thallus. Okay, so the lower most part of the foot is having the hostria, so which help in the absorption of the water, minerals, or the nutrient like from the gametophytes of the developing sporophytes. Okay, so having a when we see the internal structure, the it has a intermediated mediated zones. Okay, so these meristematic zones have a narrow zones, and these narrow zones are located in between the foot and the capsule. So it regenerate the capsule from the base itself. Okay, so the capsule can also form a different stages of the growth here. So the capsule forms the major forms of the part here in the sporophytes, forming a cylindrical, smooth, upright cylinders. Okay, so here the structure may be slightly taper at the apex part. Okay, so that may be consist of the capsule walls and the sporogenous tissues and the columella. So here when we see the capsule wall, these capsule walls having a 4 to 6 layers of the parenchyma cells. Okay, so these which is the outermost layer of forming the epidermis and heavily cutinized form or ventrically elongated forms having a interrupted in by the stomata. So here in the when we see the below the green parenchyma cells, the photosynthetic tissues are also present having containing a chloroplast. So the sporophytes are capable here for the manufacturing of their own food through the photosynthesis except for the water and mineral, for each of them having a general um, formation of which help except in the water and the mineral for which it depend upon the gametophytes. Okay, So here the sporogenous tissues are also present, and these sporogenous tissues forming the archosporiums or the anthocerus, so which is situated in the jackets and the columella. So at maturity it can be differentiated into the spore mother cells or the pseudo eleators. So here in the columella also, the central part of the capsules is the columella, which forms the fore elongation of the ventral cells. But here you can find the layer, it is having a 60 around 16 rows of cells are present, so which forms, when we see in the transverse sections, it may be a solid square. Okay, so the which provides a mechanical support. So here the main function you can find it in the columella is that which provides a mechanical support in the capsules. So it which also helps in the spore to disperse and associate with the conduction of the water and minerals. So the main purpose here is the conduction of water and minerals. So when the desiccation of the capsule take place at maturity, the tip of the capsule lost the water, and in fact the loss of the water forms in the capsule's wall generally favors the desiccation. So that means slit appears and for during the with the hygroscopic absorption, that means the absorption of the water or the moisture from the atmosphere, that and the movement of the pseudo eleators releases the spores to a distance through the air current, forming in the apical portions through the twist. So the tip of the columella projects like a flagellum. Okay, so that help in the desiccation. So germination of the spores take place and the second life cycles take place. Okay. Thank you. This session is powered by 2.0 Jyoti Vidyapeeth Women's University Jaipur. If you have any queries, we'll discuss in the problem solving session. Thank you.